And these are a few questions that we had last week. One great question is like, why the molecule of water? So you have the oxygen here, and why you don't have the hydrogen here and you don't form a linear molecule? You form this bent figure. And the reason is because you have the free electrons, the electrons alone on the top, while this part of the molecule is more positive. So this is why you bend the, is not linear. Instead of that, it's a bend structure. And here I just show in a more detail. So here are the electrons that they are sharing, and here there are the electrons that are alone that make this molecule negative. Well, this molecule is positive. This section of the molecule is positive, more positive. So you have a molecule with a polarity, and this is why you have these hydrogen bonds. And if you want to know more about this, there is this amazing video that they explain it in a lot of detail why this molecule is bent. So here in this video, they also go into more detail and they even show you a formula. So in addition to the explanation, they have a formula with a shape and they explain the angles. And here you have three main parameters. A, that is the center atom. So you need to know how many atoms in the center you have. You need to know how many atoms that are in the side, and in this case will be the hydrogen. And here you are going to have the pair or not bonding electrons, how many pairs of bonding electrons. So here, as I show the oxygen molecule, there's only one, so here they will have only one. Then here you have the side atoms that you have one here and two here. So here, this is why you have the number 2. And later here you have one pair and 2 pairs. And this is why you have the number 2. And when you have that, you don't have a linear molecule. Yeah, you don't have a trigonal planar. What you have is this bent molecule with the angle that we already talked about it. So here the oxygen and here the hydrogen. So I show you 2 ways that explain why the molecule of the water molecule is not linear, but is bent. We also had questions about hydrogen and neutrons, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about isotopes. So in this slide, I just want that you see that this is helium. I know you have heard about that, and instead of having one hydrogen, one proton, like A, you have 1 and 2. And remember that both are positive, and as they are positive, they are going to try to, they are not attracted to each other. They try to reject each other, and so this is why you have these neutrons here that allow to make this to be condensed, yeah, and to be in the nucleus. While the electrons, they don't like each other, so they are trying to be far from each other. And if you see in any of these models, they are showing the same. There you always have neutrons in between proteins, in between electrons. And here the same thing happens. You have neutrons, and here all these positive charges, they don't attract each other. They are trying to separate from each other. Here also in all the atoms, the same thing happened. But let's see what happened in the case of the hydrogen. In the case of the hydrogen, you only have one proton, yeah, and here you have the electron. So here you don't need a neutron that separate the two protons. So in this case, you don't need a neutron. So the most common hydrogen atom, lack of neutrons. There is no neutrons. However, if you have isotopes like here, remember that the isotopes will have the same number of protons and electrons, yeah, so 1 and 1, but you change the number of neutrons. So here you have 1, and here you have 1 and 2. So you can have also isotope of hydrogen with neutrons, but generally the most common one is the hydrogen that lack of neutrons. And the other question that it was very good that I learned a lot from all these questions is the difference between a tetrahedron and a triangular pyramid. And they are actually the same thing. But one is talking about the pyramid, the triangular. It means that the base of the pyramid has three sides. And while when you see the square, the base has four, this one will have five, and this one will have six. So in this case, they are saying the same thing. And in the tetrahedron, what you're focusing is not in the base, it's in the number of faces. So here you have one, two here, three in the back, and four in the base. So this is why they have different names, but they are the same. And for example, well, here you have this tetrahedron triangular pyramid. You can also have five faces. So here, one, two, three, four in the back, and five in the base. And all this one can be considered a pentahedron or pentahedra because they have five faces, while this one only will have four faces. Okay, I hope that all these questions are more clear, and if you have any doubt, just let me know. Now, that was the time that you took the quiz. I hope that you send me an email, or we can see what happened with your quiz in case that you didn't take it. And these were the quiz that we were supposed to take. Now I'm going to solve the questions related to the chapter 4, related to the carbon and the molecular diversity of life. So this is the first question, and so read it and see if you want to stop the video and think about it. And the answer here, it will be A and C. Why? Because this one and this one, because the greenhouse effect prevent the air from getting cold, and also trap the heat from the sun. Here, how much CO2 has increased in the atmosphere since 1750? And the answer, as you watch in the video, is 40%. And I just remind you that if you see the amount of carbon dioxide is very small in the environment, in the atmosphere, most of them is nitrogen and oxygen. However, as we talked before, this is a thermoregulator. We are very unlucky, and small changes in the CO2 can produce dramatic changes in the temperature of our planet. Okay, this one was very easy. And the answer is the energy sources that use fossil fuels are coal plants. Okay, read this one and stop the video if you have any question. So the answer is very easy. Here it will be D. And why D? Because you have, for example, plants like algae in the ocean. And the algae are doing photosynthesis, so they are taking the CO2. However, we also have animals, and also we have plants, and in both cases they are doing plants, and they are doing respiration. And as they are doing respiration, they are releasing CO2. So this is why we have a balance. So the oceans actually are doing both. Now the problem that we have is that we are having much more CO2. We are burning carbon fossil fuels, and now we have much more carbon than the one that the plants are able to absorb. Okay, that was very easy, and if you watch the video, you can answer it. Okay, this is a very easy question. What happened with the melting ice? So what happened when this happened? And what will be effect on the temperature? And here it will increase the temperature because the ice will reflect more sunlight. So when we don't have this the ice, now the ocean, the water in the ocean, the temperature is going to increase even more. And in class, we watch a video that show how the different glaciers are disappearing. And if you want to watch this video, just let me know, and I just send you a link. This is a scientist that described that he took several years in the North Pole, I think, and I don't know if in the South Pole, and he for years he created recordings showing how all these glaciers are regressing and they are not coming back. And now this is the answer of the other quiz. So if you want, you can stop the video and think about it. The answer here is optical rotation. And remember that optical rotation is the extent that is measured in degrees to which a solution of a molecule will rotate in a plane polarized light. So here you have the light and you have the chemicals, and this will show how much this substance, this molecule, will rotate. So that was the key factor that we were looking for. Now stop this one, again stop the video and try to answer this question. And here the answer will be tetrahedral. Good. And you watch that in the video. Okay, try to answer this question. Chirality is a property that concerns the relationship between a molecule and its. So think about this. And the answer here will be mirror images. And in the video they show this type of things. So remember here the key for this one will be mirror images. And here is a slightly different. So in the video they talk about the chiral components of a linear polarized beam light can be compared to everyday objects, and they make a connection to one of these. So remember the video. If you want, you can watch it again. And here the answer, they talk about this ones because they have a right rotation, or in this case, sorry, left-handed, and this one it will be right-handed. And this is very important. Now we're going to go very quick to the quizzes of chapter number 5 that they were very easy. And they are talking about giant molecules and what is the name of the giant molecule. So please tell me that this is, you didn't pick this one. And the answer here, very easy, as we watch in the video lectures, is macromolecules. There are 4 macromolecules. And here they ask you, okay, there are 4. So carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and you miss one. Which one is? And here it will be proteins. Here polymers are formed by chemical reactions in which a large number of molecules are joined to form a chain. So what is the name of this molecule? So our monomers. Remember, proteins are macromolecules. Atoms, definitely no, this will form molecules later. And polypons is something, I don't know if there is, this definitely not. And if you remember the video, when all the monomers get together, they form polymers, and the monomers are the building blocks. And these are questions about the video, and if you watch the video lecture, it will be very easy. So you have here glucose, fructose, and galactose. Okay, the answer here, all of them are monosaccharides. So if you remember, monosaccharides are single sugars, while disaccharides are composed of 2 monosaccharides, and you have other definitions like polysaccharides, and oligosaccharides. So if you watch the video, you know all the answers. Now in starches, the glucose unit are joined together by, so this is also very easy. So the answer is just very easy. Here the answer will be alpha bonds. In the next class we will talk about that these ones are for proteins, and these were all the other types, the alpha and the beta bonds. In the case of the starch and the glucose, it will be alpha bonds. So remember, depend on this OH where it's located, it could be alpha or it could be beta. So the difference is based on two rings forming a glucose. It could be alpha and beta. Which of these foods would have the lowest glycemic index? So if you watch the video, you know that in the case of the scrambled eggs, we'll have the lowest glycemic index. So this long question, here they ask you about a hormone. Later we will study that hormone is a type of a protein in most of the cases that facilitate the movement of glucose out of the blood into the body cells. And the answer will be insulin, and this will be very important, and you watch that in the video. So what is thought to be the underlying cause for a metabolic syndrome? So in the video they talk about the insulin resistance. So in the class we talk about this, and this is just I wanted to know if you think that this is real or fake, because our consumption of carbohydrates have changed so much. So is this real or fake to have a hot dog with cream and like a donut? And I have to tell you, this is real. This Nutella lasagna, real or not? And this is real. There are people that eat this. This sugar cookie pizza, of course, you know that this is real. I show you a video of a place in Chicago that it might be delicious, but it's just weird to they have these milkshakes that are, although they're delicious, they take an entire cake and they blend it and they put even more sugar everywhere. And I showed them the video of how they make those things. And why I talk about that, because there is something very important, that is that Canada has also has a problem with diabetes, and so I want that you are aware of how much sugar you're eating every day, because definitely this is having an effect, and it will have an effect in our lives. Then we have our groups activity. So we divide into groups and we discuss about these topics that we study in the class, in the video lecture, and there will be questions, so you answer and you make sure that you understand well those topics. So later we move to the chapter number 5 and we focus on macromolecules, and you know that there are 4, and we mainly focus on carbohydrate. In this case, again, we're going to talk about how the molecule structure and the function are inseparable, and we're going to focus on this, and we are going to do that by also answering some questions in group. And I remind you that this table can be sometimes very useful for you, and maybe can be useful for answering the following questions. So you have to go here, and they will have questions at the end, and you'll have to take this one, and there will be more questions at the end. And here in the dehydration reaction, for this question, you need to remember, look the hint. What is the meaning of this? Dehydration. So when you work out a lot, you're dehydrated. So here it's because there is a removal of water. So remember what you watch in the video lecture, and which one of these ones talk about removing water. And here you can see some of the slides of the video lecture, and it's the synthesis of a polymer, and they describe here the dehydration reaction. So in this case, you have one monomer, and here you have a short polymer. And as a result of this reaction, you have a longer polymer, and what you are doing here is the loss of a molecule of water. So this is what is called dehydration reaction. So here the answer will be A. And why will be A? Because here you have a dehydration reaction, and as you see, you are removing water. You are taking water from those polymers, so water molecules are produced as a result of forming a polymer from these two monomers. So this one is very easy. You can stop the video if you want to read the question. Here you have four main categories that form the large biological molecules, and here the hint is think about the categories listed on the food labels. So if you watch the videos, you know, for example, that DNA and RNA they form nucleic acids. So this question is incorrect. Here, this one will be also incorrect. So you have to check which one is correct and which one no. So for example, you will already know that carbohydrate and monosaccharides are not correct. Monosaccharides are a type of carbohydrate, and if you do that, the answer will be relatively easy. So as we talked before and we saw in the video lecture, these are the four groups: proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates, and finally the nucleic acids. So the answer will be C. And now we're going to talk about the plant cell walls and what is the main component. So think about a polysaccharide found primarily in plants, and this is a very good hint. So chlorophyll, this is a pigment used for photosynthesis, so we know that is incorrect. Chitin, we talk about fungi and insects in the video movie, so this is definitely not the wine one. And here we have this one that I cannot pronounce right now, but this is found in the cell walls of bacteria. And the right one is this one. And if you have any doubt, just go to the video lecture. You will find that I talk there that the cellulose is a major component of the wall of plant cells, and also that the cellulose has beta-glucose rings, that the cellulose have this very interesting structure that form microfibers that these structures are parallel, and that in herbivores they need to interact with microbes to be able to digest, to break these bonds between cellulose, and all the information is there. So answer definitely A. So please go here and read the question. If you want, you can stop the video. They talk about sucrose is formed from glucose and fructose, and you know. And here the hint is really good one. They ask you that what is the type of covalent bond in the formation of polysaccharides. And I remind you that proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, and carbohydrates, all of them are going to have a different type of bond, and it will be called in a different way. So here you can start which one sound like sugar. And the answer, this, as I said before, this will be for proteins, phosphodiester will be for DNA, ester linkage will be for lipids, as we will see later, and ionic bond. Here they are asking for covalent bonds. Here this is not the right one. So let's go and see in which part of the video lecture we talk about that. So if you go to the video lecture, in the formation of disaccharides, we talk about how maltose is formed and how sucrose is formed. And I said that this covalent bond is called glycosidic linkage. So here, if you have any doubt, go back to the video lecture. So one thing that I didn't talk in the video lecture, but you have to read from your textbook, is these Miller's experiments. And I showed them a video about this, and if you want to see the video clip, you can send me an email and I can send you the link. So now that you went to your textbook, and if you haven't read that, you know that they went from simple, in this experiment they went from simple molecules to complex organic molecules. So a hint here is try to look which molecules are simple and which one are complex. So for example, methane is relatively simple. Yeah, there are hydrocarbons that have thousands and thousands of atoms, so this could be a simple one. Ammonia is relatively much simpler than amino acid, so this could be a simple one. Here, for example, we have two of them that are simple, the methane and the ammonia. And here you have again the ammonia that is simple. So it seems that this could be the right one. So if you remember the experiments, they start with simple molecules like methane, hydrogen, and ammonia. They produce these electrical currents that simulate the early environments in the earth. And as a result, they mix all these chemicals. And as they show in the videos, they start seeing something new forming. And those new things forming was organic compounds like hydrocarbons. They were much complex, and amino acids that are fundamental for the life in our planet as we know it. And they found formaldehydes, hydrogen cyanide, amino acids, and hydrocarbons. So these four. So, and we also watch another video that explains that in more detail. So here again, this is the answer. This is a very easy question. If you remember what we studied before, you remember that most of the organic compounds contain which atoms. So organic compounds have carbon. For example, hydrocarbons have hydrogen. So right away, C is wrong because there is no carbon here. And if you remember the functional groups, many functional groups have oxygen, have nitrogen, and a few of them will have sulfur and few of them have phosphorus. Yeah, so many of them have this one and many of them have this one. If you remember all the list of major components of living organisms, you will find these four. So this one is wrong, this one is just a little bit. They are not the major component. Phosphorus is not a major component, so the answer will be A. So let's go and see where the answer. So here again, the major components are here, and all the sulfur and phosphate are here. These can be only minor elements. So as a result, the answer is A. So this question is relatively easy. So if you want, you can stop the video and go to the video lecture to answer this question, or you can go to the PowerPoint slides. So here they're talking about variation in carbon change, and they're talking about the molecular complexity that we talk. And here, remember, the hint here is the parameters that they talk about, that I talk. And there are these four parameters. And in the next slide, I will show it, but try to remember. Definitely, length is one of them. However, only length is not enough. So this one is wrong. Here, they talk in A, they talk about length. Definitely, this is correct. However, on double bonds, and the position of them is correct. However, here there is only two that are four. So A and B are not correct. Here they give you the third one, that is the rings that they form cycles. So this is correct, but they only have two. So This is not correct. Carbon skeleton can vary in length and exhibit branching. Here you find finally two, but you found the one that you were missing. So they will be length, branching, double bonds, and the rings. So this one is the correct one. So if you go to the video lecture, you will see all these four: length, double bond position, branching, and the presence of the ring. So for that reason, this one is the correct one. Now, you can read this question and try to answer it. And here they're talking about the large diversity of biological shapes, and it's based on the extensive presence of one atom. And this is really easy. That I repeated so many times that I was annoying in the lecture. And remember, consider the electron configuration of the atoms of the organic compounds found in living organisms, and you have to remember this tetrahedron that they show that, and the tetrahedron is because of the carbon. Very good. So I don't have to talk a lot about that. If you don't remember that, just go to the video lecture. Here they talk about that the carbon is the backbone of biological molecules, all these macromolecules. Now let's go to this one. Try to read one. Which of the following is a hydrocarbon? And the hint is the following. Consider the meaning of the prefix hydro and the word carbon. So again, hydrogen and carbon. So you have to look for something that have hydrogen and carbon. So the most likely, definitely not this one. This one have oxygen. This one have other ones. This one is correct and correct, but it also have this one. So the most likely will be this one. So very easy. This is the hydrocarbon. Okay, in this one, again, read the question. You can go to the video lectures, but the idea is I recommend you that you remember what is a cis and trans and what is an isomer. And in the hint, they actually do that. They said iso means equal, and cis and trans relate to the arrangement of atoms. And if you remember the video lecture, the molecular structure to look like this, and you have a double bond here, and some of them, if you remember, the molecule will be here, and the other ones will look like this. So remember how many isomers are, and if you see A is not correct because the mirror images, they talk about enantiomer, so it's another type of isomers. B, they have the same number of atoms, but different structure. These are structural isomers, so this is not correct. They have, in C, they said they differ in arrangement of covalent bonds and in covalent partners. This doesn't mean it's not clear. I don't think that this is correct. D, this is even more general, and this one, the E, seems to be the correct one. They differ in the spatial arrangement around the inflexible double bonds. So this is the most complete one and the one that answered best the question. So let's go and see why. So I told you there were structural isomers, cis and trans isomers, and enantiomers. And here, this one there will be the cis, this one will be the trans, and you can see more about that in the video lecture. And cis and trans isomer have the same covalent bonds, but differ in the spatial arrangement. So this is the answer.